Hello, my name is Elena Avram, and today's presentation is part of the iSports project on the prevention, detection, and combat of sexual harassment in sports. More specifically, together we will emphasize on the understanding of sexual harassment in sports. As with every subject, it is important to first clarify what we do know about it. Throughout the research, it has been indicated that sexual harassment happens in all sports and at all levels. Specifically, it has been noticed that sexual harassment is vividly apparent in elite sports, where the pressure for achievement is great and the athletes will not allow to almost anything to destroy their dream. Taking this to consideration, the athletes are usually sexually harassed by persons who have a powerful position and authority in sports. Sexual harassment in sport takes on unique dimensions because of the power relationships established with coaches and because of the necessary focus on athletes' bodies. Recognition of sexual harassment in sport has come at the highest levels. The International Olympic Committee issued a consensus statement in 2007 which reported that sexual harassment and abuse happen in all sports and at all levels. Prevalence appears to be higher in elite sport. Members of the athletes' entourage who are in position of power and authority appear to be primary perpetrators. Pair athletes have also been identified as perpetrators. Males are more often reported as perpetrators than females. Research demonstrates that sexual harassment and abuse in sport seriously and negatively impact on athletes' physical and psychological health. It can result in impaired performance and lead to athlete dropout. Clinical data indicate that psychosomatic illness, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, self-harm, and suicide are some of the serious health consequences. The Windhoek Call for Action, adopted by the Second World Conference on Women in Sport in 1998, addresses the responsibility of all parties involved in sport to ensure a safe and supportive environment for girls and women participating in sport for all levels by taking steps to eliminate all forms of harassment and abuse, violence, and exploitation. Recognizing the problem of sexual harassment in sports, the European Parliament in 2005 adopted a resolution that urges member states and sports federations to adopt measures for the prevention and elimination of sexual harassment and abuse in sport by enforcing the legislation on sexual harassment at work, to inform athletes and their parents of the risk of abuse and the meanings of legal action available to them, to provide sports organizations staff with specific training, and to ensure that criminal and disciplinary provisions are applied. The UNESCO Code of Ethics states that sports organizations have the responsibility to ensure that safeguards are in place within the context of an overall framework of support and protection for children, young people, and women, both to protect the above groups from sexual harassment and abuse and to prevent the exploitation of children, particularly those who demonstrate precocious ability. Many studies also showed some strong results on this matter. More specifically, research on sexual harassment was first undertaken in the workplace and in the educational system, where it seems to be very widespread. According to Fitzgerald in 1993, different surveys indicate that as many as half of all women in the United States will be subjected to some form of harassment during their academic or working lives. Different European studies place the proportion of women experiencing workplace sexual harassment to be between 45 and 81%, and those reporting it to be between only 5 and 22%. This indicates that harassment is the most widespread of all forms of sexual victimization. Research on sexual harassment in sport grew out of earlier studies in the public settings just mentioned. We see research from Gudek in 1985, from Stockdale in 1996, or Holloway in 1996, and many others worked on this matter in order to find the origin as well as the ways of prevention. The literature on sexual harassment in sport has thus tended to take a more organizational approach than research on sexual abuse in sport. Very little is known about the prevalence, causes, characteristics, and consequences of sexual harassment in sport. The findings of studies on sexual harassment in the workplace and educational settings, however, indicate that sport organizations and even the sports sciences may represent cultures in which sexual harassment can easily occur because gender ratios, sexualized atmospheres, and organizational power have been found to influence both the incidence and maintenance of sexual harassment in the workplace and in academia. This was findings from the study of Hoteling and Zuber in 1997. Studies also show that prevalence rates are highest in workplaces where women traditionally have been underrepresented. All these actions can really work on destroying performances and lead even to dropouts by the athletes. So it's very important to take them seriously, and it's very important more research and more work to be done in order to eliminate and minimize this massive issue. In the first ever national level survey of sexual harassment and abuse in sports, a questionnaire was administered to the total population of 1,200 athletes of Canada's highest performance and recently retired Olympic athletes by Kirby and Greaves in 1996. 22% of the 266 respondents, only 266 responded to this survey out of 1,200 that they were asked to participate. 22% of these 226 respondents replied that they had sexual intercourse with persons in positions of authority in the sport. 9% reported they had experienced forced sexual intercourse or rape with such persons. 23 respondents were under 16 of age at the time of the sexual assault. In other words, they experienced child sexual assault. Another Canadian study of 1,024 female and male students athletes by Holman 1995 found that 57% had experienced some form of sexual harassment. Most of these experiences could be defined as gender harassment, like sexist jokes or comments, but also seductive behavior, coercion, or physical intrusion. Assault was reported. Last, a Danish study of Toftegard Nielsen in 1998 of 250 male and female college sports science students found that 25% either knew about or had themselves experienced situations where a sport participant under the age of 18 years had been sexually harassed by the coach. 4 of these reported having been sexually abused. In a later study of 2014, Nielsen analyzed 160 court cases about sport and sexual abuse in Denmark. Among these cases that had been taken to court, 2/3 of the victims were boys, with an average of 12 years when the abuse has taken place. All perpetrators here were men, even though 37% of all coaches in Sport Denmark are women. It should be clear from the overview of the research on sexual harassment in sport that more knowledge is needed. It's essential to gain this knowledge in order to go and move forward on this matter. These are many rumors and few facts based on research in this area. We still need prevalence studies, particularly in places and sports environment in which violence against girls and women in sports is a non-issue or is not talked about. Thank you.